This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. What do you think of my method? I don't see a method. I feel like that nearly 24 hours a day. I constantly look for the method. I don't see the method. I feel like we've entered this crazy, crazy world where most all of the voices are Kurt's up the river somewhere in Cambodia talking about collecting bills and grocery clerks. 100% true. I mean, it's a minefield out there. How does one know what voice to consider? What voice as real? I don't think you can consider any voice until there's data. If you have the data, then you can find the voice, then you can find the narrative, then you can find the individual whose actions back up the data. If there's no data, it's just a battle of mine's bigger than yours. And isn't that where we are in modern society right now? Mine is bigger than yours. I can yell louder on Twitter, therefore I am right. I have more followers that maybe are 100% brain dead, therefore I am right. Data has been thrown to the wayside. The understanding of data has been thrown to the wayside. Measuring, counting, any kind of statistical analysis, boom, it's gone. The only thing that I can see in modern life that matters to so many people are feelings. Let me express to you my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings. This is my feeling. Then somebody walks in the room, the little guy with the pocket protector and the slide rule and whatever, and he says, hey, show me the data. And you would have thought that someone just killed their firstborn. If you ask someone who has a strong opinion, a big voice, but no data, if you ask them about the data, you know what their reaction is going to be. Their reaction is going to be full-blown cognitive dissonance. They are going to go into confirmation bias. They'll do anything to avoid that data that causes their truth to be not true. Let me tell some stories about listening and how I went about trying to acquire data. So it was always about listening and acquiring data, sometimes acquiring data first, sometimes listening first. Sometimes you would listen and then not have the data, and you would note in your mind, oh, wow, that was a really interesting story, but I don't have the data to back it. Sometimes you start with the data. I think back to trying to figure out, and it was a puzzle, trying to figure out all these many years ago, who was behind the Barings Bank blow-up? This great, successful bank that blew out. And trying to figure that out was a challenge. And I've talked about this before. I've written about it. But it was a stroke of luck being in the right place at the right time to get confirmation from two of the largest brokerage firms in the day that John Henry, then one of the biggest trend-following traders, if not the biggest, was on the other side of that trade. And you might say, well, Mike, that's a long time ago. It's irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. The biggest trend-following trader of the day might change. His name might change. He might move on to something else. In John Henry's case, he moved on to professional sports and has done quite well with 3 Red Sox championships. But I remember looking at all the news accounts. And right at the same time, that John Henry was making all of this money, Barings Bank was going bust. So I actually had the data. I had the data. But the data didn't connect John Henry to Barings Bank. There was no connective tissue. So I had all this fantastic performance data that was telling me a story. The story was that this great trend following trader made all of this money at the exact same time a bank lost all of their money. Well, it's a zero-sum game. You can draw conclusions, but how are you sure? I mean, most of Wall Street doesn't really want to tell you what's going on. Who wants to tell you that, hey, there was a great zero-sum transfer and the guy that owns the Red Sox essentially did a credit card swipe and all of the money from Barings Bank went to his accounts and his clients' accounts? In that situation, I had the data, but I had to find the story that connected the data, which I did eventually. But this also wasn't the time of social media. It was the time of the internet, but it was not the time of social media. So I had time. I had time to piece my story together. I had time to research, to figure out, to connect the dots. Because these dots weren't being connected publicly. I did it. It was a fun puzzle to figure out. Now contrast that to today. Modern life. I can go onto Twitter right now, any day of the week, or social media, Facebook, whatnot, and I will find voices that will tell me something about a particular strategy. Now, mind you, with the John Henry example, we all knew he was a trend-following trader. We had his long-term track record to look at. So it's very plausible to put all the pieces together and know what happened and know that this particular strategy, trend following, was the winner. And why? But getting back to today on social media, so many voices. They all want to push some particular type of strategy. The beginning of this podcast, talking about cognitive dissonance, talking about confirmation bias. Here, let me use an example to paint an even more clear picture. I had a conflict on Twitter recently with someone, and he was one of these predictive technical analyst types. So this guy believes that he can take technical analysis, whatever that might be exactly, and apply it to one market in isolation, and he can now trade this one market with predictive technical analysis. No diversification, none of that. He's just got one market, and he can tell you when to buy and sell on that one market at all times, and he uses this predictive technical analysis, something that is absolutely rooted in 100% bullshit, because we all know, at the end of the day, trading is about diversification. You don't wake up on January 1st of any given year and say to yourself, I will make money in this market. No, you wake up on January 1st of any given year with a portfolio of markets that you're looking at and a strategy that will trade them all, but not make money in all of them. You'll make money in some of them. In fact, you'll make money in a minority of them. You're going to lose money in the majority of them. But the kicker, you're going to make more on your winners than you lose on your losers. But to stay in my Twitter example, think about what kind of insanity one must be in to say, in the face of decades of data, tear my words apart. Look at the narrative that I present today. Find the data that attaches to it. It dovetails seamlessly. You can obtain the data for trend following trades immediately. You can look at the track records. You know what's going on. One market in isolation with predictive technical analysis? No. So what state of mind does an individual have to be in to promote that, to talk about that, to believe that it's true? Well, this is our modern life today. It doesn't make a difference whether it's someone on Twitter with a market view of one market predictive technical analysis or someone on CNN. or Fox with their particular view. Most of modern life does not allow for counting. There's no numbers involved. I mean, the guy that wants to talk about his great predictive technical analysis on one market, all you have to say is, where's the track record? Just show me the track record. You know what happens when you ask for the track record? It becomes a personal attack. It's ad hominem. It's, you're the devil, Covel. You're a scumbag, Covel. You're just making up stuff, Covel. You just want to make money, Covel. Covel, you just love one strategy. You can't consider any other strategy. Your entire business is built on one strategy. You won't talk about any other strategy. Now, of course, none of this is true. The words that I put in print are easily found for everyone. I've talked fondly and critically of short-term strategies, fondly and critically of Warren Buffett. What do you think I am, some kind of a freaking idiot? Of course Warren Buffett has made a bloody fortune. Of course Jim Simons has made a bloody fortune. Toby Crable doesn't have a good strategy? Give me a break. He does exceptionally well. Again, though, there's data. You can find the data to paint the picture to believe. Look out in your world right now. Think about the people you know, the projects they're working on, whatever they're chasing, whatever they're pursuing. How many of them have a genuine direction that's based on numbers versus how many of them have a general direction that's based on some momentary gut feel? Most of the world runs on a momentary gut feel. Most of the world runs that way. Let me throw another example out. Go look at the interviews in my newest edition of Trend Following, this April 2017 edition. Go look at those interviews. I challenge you to find sentences, phrases, paragraphs that don't connect with data. It's impossible to go through those interviews and not be able to prove with track records, with systems, with formulas, with research papers. It's impossible to not be able to prove that those words are true. Now, of course, there's going to be some fun color, for example, of Alex Grayserman, who was originally hired by Larry Hite. Alex talking about his fun first meeting with Larry Hite. Of course, that's a personal anecdote. That's not the point here. But when you read the meat and potatoes of where Alex Grayserman is going in that interview chapter in my newest edition of Trend Following, find the data that disproves him. I thought about that in every word of that book, every last word. I kept thinking to myself, will the words on the page match with the data sets? Will they match with the white papers? Will they match with the track records, the performance histories? I didn't want to put it in the book if I didn't have the backing. Now, in prior editions, I have put Trend Following track records literally in the book. I decided not to do that this time. I've put enough track records in enough books. I think the point is made. There's no better feeling than looking at some data problem for the first time, some data series for the first time, and seeing something in the data that perhaps a lot of other people aren't seeing, and having your aha moment to be like, wow, this is amazing. So that's the first step. I'm kind of giving the Mike Covel version of the scientific method. But that's the first step. Then you have to find others. Who else has gone down this path with you? If it's only just you on the journey and there's no one else, you alone have found the secrets to the universe for this one particular trading strategy, and no one else knows what you're doing or talking about. You're the brilliant mind that everyone must bow down to now. Oh my God, that's just the litmus test of the person that's full of shit. There is no one guy that's got it all figured out. There's lots of people that have got it figured out. Now, that lots of people might not be millions. And I use my example of trend following again. I thought it was so damn cool to find track records spread across decades from all these different traders that didn't know each other. Believe it or not, many of the very famous traders in my books across my podcast, I've introduced them. They didn't know each other. They were in their own world, doing their own cooking, sticking to their knitting, not paying attention to the rest of the world. But they had all either stumbled or very purposefully come into this particular style of trading. Again, back to my Twitter guy. The Twitter guy that just wants to promote this one particular technical analysis, predictive strategy that works on one market. And when I call him out, again, it's the Covel, you just love this one strategy. You can't think outside the box. You make a lot of money doing this. You make a lot of money doing that. And they just have meltdowns. The meltdown is a sign. I love meltdowns. When I cause someone to melt down, whether on social media or a particular review, I love it. The data doesn't matter to those people. What matters to those people, and I imagine they're kind of like these pasty-looking in their mom's basement wearing their tighty-whities with really bad skin, and they haven't exercised for a long time. But to them, winning this particular argument, whether or not they have data or not, is all that matters to them. I can't convince those kinds of people. They're freaking crazy. You can't convince crazy people of anything. And back to the beginning of this conversation, why I lead off with Kurtz. Most people are Kurtz. The challenge for you, how do you get the non-Kurtz in your life? How do you get Brando in Apocalypse Now out of your life? Nobody wants Fat Brando from Apocalypse Now in their life, but most people have Fat Brando, circa Apocalypse Now, in their life every day, sitting on their shoulder, filling their head with mush. So let me tell you, the way to find the truth, extreme reactions. If you put something out there and you get an extreme reaction from anyone, and you know that extreme reaction is all emotional, all feelings, and you know that particular person is avoiding the issue that you've put on the table. Now, maybe they've got a big bio. Maybe they've got a great CV, a big resume. Maybe they've got a huge social media following. Who cares? You have to be confident enough in your own self, your own understanding, your own perceptions, that if you see someone, anyone, break out into cognitive dissonance, meaning you watch their entire world start to implode in front of you, and then they turn it all on you because you're now the bad guy for bringing up the truth, you've got them by the balls. You've got the argument by the balls. You've got the truth by the balls. Then just walk away. Let that person that has the big ego, that has all the feelings, that's all emotionally tied up in knots, let them do their own thing. But it's a tell, in psychological terms, it's a tell when you see the person not stay on the logical path, not stay on the rational path, and bombard you with logical fallacies. Straw men, red herrings, all this kind of stuff they just love to throw, the ad hominems, anything to avoid the truth. You've won. You've got your answer. You can turn Kurtz off because now Kurtz is just a joke. Again, this is Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now, played by Marlon Brando. Once you know the truth, once you see the player, whether it's a small player or a big player, once you see them break in front of you, you now know. You have confidence. In my world, for example, The people that I became friends with, the people that I've written about, the people that have appeared on my podcast, especially the traders, these were best in class. These were the traders that lived in a truthful way. I could find the data to back their words. There were plenty of other traders, if that's what you want to call them, and I've got their books and their documents, didn't pass the smell test. A lot of these books people still buy today. I mean, I could go down the list and just rattle off 20 books that if you own in your library, you're better off taking outside and burning. They're a waste of your mind power, and some of these are considered classics. Now, if you know the words in these, quote, classics are useless, then you've got to tell, but what's the point of keeping useless words? What's the point of just keeping information that can't be proved, that can't be studied, that can't be verified, that can't be spun through the lie detector? What's the point? Let me give another example. Something that you will hear about in the news nonstop these days. Who's responsible for the stock market? Who's responsible for the upward movement in the U.S. stock market? Trump is responsible for the stock market going up. Well, what if it goes down? What if it collapses 50% in the next 2 years? Is Trump responsible for that? That's a simple little thought experiment. Is Trump responsible for the stock market right now as it goes up? If the stock market was to crash tomorrow, is Trump responsible for that? I'd say he wasn't responsible up or down. And I would say, more importantly, big picture, who gives a shit? I'm not being cocky when I say that. Who cares? How does it help you? You're never going to find data that truly supports either one of those directions. Trump responsible for the market going up, Trump responsible if the market goes down. You're not going to find data. So how do you know when to turn it off? This is the challenge. You've got to figure out a particular strategy of understanding the world where you can turn off the voices. If you can't turn off the voices, there's only one option left. You're going to go freaking mad. Going mad is no fun. What's fun is hopping on a plane and scouring the world for cool experiences. Now, when I start to talk about getting on a plane and going to scour the world for a great adventure, isn't that the point of the trading and the entrepreneurship? You're just trying to buy yourself some time, trying to buy yourself some freedom. I mean, making money alone, yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's got usefulness. But there's got to be something to do with it. And buying yourself time so you could go on the great adventure. And damn it, I would hope that some people listening to this podcast would come find my ass across this world and let's share a beer. I'm not a big beer drinker, but I'll share one every now and again. I've got my youthful indiscretions that practiced me for when I do have to consume alcohol. The yoga girls keep me in the straight line, though, so I try to avoid it. So I give you a challenge today. Go find somebody, anybody, that you can put into cognitive dissonance. Perhaps it's family. Perhaps it's a friend, business partner, complete stranger, someone on social media. Find someone who has something very strong-willed to say and put data in front of them and watch them break. I don't know about you, but I love watching people break when they can't handle the data. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.